As I had already explained you all in the last class what is conversation. So you all know now what is a conversation, isn't it? So a conversation is a talk in which people exchange their views, opinions, feelings, information, etc. So when two people they interact with one another, that is considered to be as a conversation. When only one person delivers the lecture, or when only one person gives the instructions, that is not a conversation. In case of a conversation, both the parties or both the participants must equally take part in the process, in the discussion or in the interaction. So I had also explained you how to mm, how to develop your conversation skills, and today I will be explaining you how you are supposed to control the conversation. How can you control the conversation? So conversation control. What is conversation control? It basically refers to the skills of listening and talking in a positive and in a meaningful way at an appropriate time. Okay, so conversation control basically is a skill of listening as well as talking, and you have to start the conversation in a meaningful way and at an appropriate time. So it must be positive and it must be meaningful, and also it should be done at an appropriate time. Conversation control, it basically helps everyone to, it helps us to initiate the discussion, to have a control over the discussion, and also to conclude the conversation effectively and satisfactorily. If you have a control over the conversation, if you can control the conversation, then you can definitely mm, definitely build a good relationship with the other person. Along with that, there won't be any kind of conflict, there won't be any kind of issue after the conversation. So you must be able to initiate the discussion and carry on the discussion. Along with that, you must be also able to conclude the conversation. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Right now.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Sorry, I lost the connection. Okay, so I'll continue. So, conversation control basically refers to the skills of listening properly, talking in a positive and a meaningful way, and also at an appropriate time. Conversation control, it helps all the participants. It helps us to basically initiate the conversation, then control the conversation, carry on the conversation, and also it helps to conclude the conversation effectively and satisfactorily along with mutual understanding and agreement. So, moving ahead. So there are certain situations when we are supposed to be able to control the conversation. All right. In these kind of situations, you are supposed to control your uh, conversation. For example, when you are selling and buying something, if you are the person who is selling a good or a service, or if you are the customer, you must be able to control the conversation. And how will you be able to control the conversation? I'll be explaining it to you after this. Then, whenever you are negotiating, so you have to convince the other person, isn't it? You have to be able to express your opinions properly so that the other person understands and so that the other person agrees. So, whenever you are negotiating with somebody over something, then you must have conversation control. You must be able to control the conversation. Next, if you are a person who is interviewing, okay, so in that case also you must be able to use conversation control. Then whenever you participate in meetings, so you are supposed to apply conversation control. You are supposed to control the overall conversation. Next, uh, when you want to disagree to something, but you cannot be rude to the other person. So you must know the art of disagreeing without being rude. So that's when you need to control the conversation. That's when you are supposed to um, have a control over the conversation. Next is when you are praising somebody, when you are complimenting somebody, so you you are supposed to apply conversation control. So you must be able to initiate, you must be able to go and compliment the other person, you must be able to go and praise the other person. So you must be able to initiate the conversation at first, and you must be able to carry on, you must be able to continue the conversation in a very good manner. Then whenever you are protesting against something, but you are not supposed to be offending, so there's a thing called protesting without offending. So you're protesting, of course, for the rights, but you're also not offending anybody. So in that case, you are you are supposed to apply conversation control. You need some kind of control over your conversation. Next is responding to personal criticism. So whenever somebody is criticizing you, so you must be able to respond in a in a beautiful way. So you must be able to respond in a good way. So you must know how to deal with that kind of a situation, and in that case, application of conversation skills, conversation control skills is very necessary, especially in case of business. As I had already said that uh, like selling and buying, negotiating, or participating in meetings, these are a part of your professional life of a business setting. So especially in business setting, you are supposed to apply conversation control skills so that the other person can understand you, so that you can have a good conversation with the other person, so that you do not end up arguing with one another, so that you can take criticism positively, and so that you can build a good relationship with the people. So these are some of the situations where you need to apply your conversation control skills, especially in case of formal conversation, especially in case of business. Whenever you interact with people in a meeting in a convincing way, it will be very helpful for you. So, interacting with people in meetings in a good way, in a convincing way, is nothing but your conversation skills. Is nothing but your conversation skill. Handling objections to a proposal. When you can handle objections to a proposal, you have proposed something, and how it totally depends upon you how you handle that particular objection, how you handle that particular situation. So that's when you're supposed to use your conversational skills. So in order to develop your interview skills, in order to in order to interact, in order to communicate properly, in order to be able to react to criticism in a positive and in a confident manner, and also in order to you know uh, in order to learn from your seniors, you must be able to have a good conversation. You must be able to you must know how to have a conversation, and that's when you require conversation skills. So now I will be telling you how are you supposed to control any kind of conversation. What are the techniques of controlling any kind of conversation? All right. So questioning is one of the ways to control a conversation, and by questioning, you can also lead a conversation. Obviously, your question should not be illogical or irrelevant. Your question should be logical and it should be appropriate. So, by questioning, you can definitely lead a conversation, and you can also enjoy that particular period. You also get the opportunity to learn about more things. You also get the opportunity to get more information. So that is why you can use this technique of questioning to control the conversation. Next is by complimenting. As I had said that when you compliment people, when you praise people, you need to use conversation control. You need to use this conversation control skills. So when you compliment something in a that will definitely boost up the energy of the other person. That will definitely make the other person happy. So in that way you can have definitely have a good time with the other person. So you can change the mood of the other person, you can change the total environment by complimenting. So you can use this technique, but whenever it is necessary. If it is not necessary, you don't have to do it without any reason. If there is a reason to compliment someone or to praise someone, and if you feel the necessity to do that, then you should definitely compliment or you should definitely praise in order to make the other person feel good, in order to change the mood of the other person. So that's how you can have a control over the conversation. Next is eye contact. See, nonverbal communication is a very important part of any kind of conversation. Either it's a formal conversation or an informal conversation, nonverbal communication is a very important part of any kind of conversation. Any kind of conversation. So you must maintain eye contact so that the person with whom the person uh, you are speaking to feels good, and also this will let you to control the conversation, this will let you to make the conversation interesting. Also you'll be able to connect with the other person, the other person also will be able to connect with you. So in that way, by maintaining proper eye contact. Now eye contact does not mean that you have to stare, so you need to maintain proper eye contact. Obviously you need to blink, you don't have to stare. So by maintaining good facial expressions, by maintaining a good body posture, good gestures, positive gestures can definitely let you control the conversation. You will be able to have a good conversation. You'll also be able to understand one another. The other techniques of controlling any kind of conversation are interpreting the signs and signals. So you must be able to understand the meaning of the different signs and signals. If somebody is signaling you something, if somebody is giving you some signals or showing some signs, then you must be able to understand the meaning so that you can mm, act accordingly. So you cannot practice everything, you cannot mm, plan everything. Sometimes your plan might not work. So sometimes you definitely need to have a plan, but regarding conversations, your plan might not work. Sometimes it might not work, and sometimes you might be in certain situations where your plan has failed, or where nothing is working. But in that particular moment, what you have to do is you have to just uh, act according to the situation. So that is why interpreting signs and signals is a good way of controlling any conversations. Then you must understand the timing. So respect the time. You must understand the time and always pick up an appropriate time. Always pick up an appropriate time. Do not just go and start talking when a person is busy. The person won't be interested to listen to you. So you must be able to cultivate a sense of timing. You must be able to understand when to talk, when not to talk, and for how long you should talk. Another way of controlling a conversation is understanding the person, understanding the things that the other person is saying. You have to be empathetic towards the other person, and also reflective. reflective as in you should provide feedback, you should provide a response, because as I had already said that conversation is a two-way communication. It's a two-way communication, and it you cannot just listen. You cannot just listen to the person who is telling you something without giving any kind of response or without taking part in the conversations. That won't be considered as a conversation. So now I'm giving you a lecture. This is not a conversation. This is a two-way communication, but it's not a conversation, because we are not having any kind of discussion regarding anything. I'm explaining to you something. I am explaining to you regarding conversation control, and I'm delivering a lecture and you are listening to me. We are not having any kind of conversation. So in a conversation, reflection is very necessary. You have to be empathetic. Along with that, you also have to be reflective. So these are the certain ways in which you can control any kind of conversation by noticing and recognizing the cues and clues. So you have to, as I had said, that non-verbal communication plays a very important role in a conversation. So you have to be you have to be able to notice and understand the cues and clues, the expressions, the phrases that the speaker uses, or the set of words that someone that the person has said. So you must be able to understand and note, you must be able to notice and then understand all the cues and clues. Along with that, as I had said, you must be able to interpret the signs and signals. So conversation is basically composed of verbal and visual indicators. So visual indicators, it consists of the expressions, the signals, the gestures, the body language, and the smile, the eye movements. So you must be able to interpret, understand all these signs and signals whenever you are having a conversation. Then another thing that you should avoid during a conversation is parallel conversation. So what is a parallel conversation? It's a type of a conversation where you exchange information without listening to one another. Both the person, they are talking at the same point of time and none of them are listening to one another. So that is a parallel conversation, and that is not at all an effective conversation. So you are supposed to avoid parallel conversations. Okay, you're not supposed to speak at the same time. Definitely, both of you have to speak and listen. Both the parties have to speak as well as listen. But you're not supposed to do it at the same time. When a person is speaking, when the other person is speaking, you're supposed to listen and then respond. When you are speaking, similarly, the other person will keep quiet and listen to you, and vice versa. So you are supposed to avoid parallel conversation. All right. Then one after the other, you must practice sequential conversation. That means a conversation where you take part, one after the other. When you are expressing your emotions or sharing some kind of information, once the other person stops. So it's a kind of a conversation where both the person, where the listener too carries or forwards the conversation in a sequential manner. So if you are the listener and the other person is saying you something, until and unless you do not say something, it won't be a conversation. So that is why, in order to have a conversation, have a talk, in order to discuss something with one another, once the speaker has said his part, you are supposed to carry forward the conversation. You're supposed to say connected points to you're supposed to say connected points. You're not supposed to say anything that does not match it, that does not at all that do not match. You're supposed to say something that is connected and in a sequential manner, in a systematic manner. That means one after the other, and there you have to be logical, and your statements should be logical, and it should have a logical link. It should have a link. So you cannot just say something, anything and everything. So if I am having a conversation with you, for example, I am talking about the A, and when you get the chance to speak, when you it's your time to speak, what you say is you say about Z. No, you are supposed to carry forward the conversation. You are either supposed to say about A or the next thing, that is B. So then only the conversation will be a logical one. So in this way, you can control your conversation, and in this way, you can definitely improve your conversation skills. So that's all regarding conversation control. Is there any doubt? Have you all understood? It's a very simple thing. It's a part of conversation skills where you need to be able to control the conversation, where you need to be able to ensure that the conversation is in a positive direction and also meets your needs. So that is conversation control. And when you're supposed to when you're supposed to control a conversation, especially when you are selling a product, especially when you are buying something, especially when you are negotiating. So I have explained you few other situations as well, where you need to uh, be able to control the conversation so that the other person can understand you, so that you can understand the other person. There are different ways, there are different tips and tricks to control the conversation, like questioning, complimenting, praising, then by recognizing the body language, facial expressions, by recognizing the cues and clues, by being empathetic, by continuing the conversation, by continuing the conversation in a sequential manner. So these are some techniques that you can use to control a conversation, it so that it can meet all your needs, and so that uh, you can build a good relation, so that you can understand one another. So yes, that's all about conversation control. So do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
So I just want to see your answers in the chat box, whether you have understood or not. I want to see your responses in the chat box, whether you have understood or not. Okay then. So I will share all the notes related to the topic conversation skills today in the WhatsApp group. Go through the notes and let me know whether you have any doubt in the next class. So once you read it, you'll be able to understand it whether you have any kind of doubt. So if you have any doubts in the next class, you can definitely ask me. So that's all for today. Thank you so much, everyone. See you in the next class. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.